Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am very psyched to have with me via Zoom one of the greatest voices in rock, Ann Wilson. How are you tonight, Ann?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I am excited because tonight you're playing Hard Rock Live in Orlando. I've got my tickets. I'm going to be at the show. Uh, what are you doing? What are you doing live? Like, what does the show consist of these days?
These days, it consists of a couple of the new songs that, well, maybe four of the new songs I've been working on with my new band, the Amazing Dawgs, and some new original stuff, some art songs, and a couple covers. It's beautiful. I'm really having a blast.
Now, this is only going to be the second show of the tour, right? You just started just a couple nights
Right,
ago.
right, yeah.
How did the first
And
night go?
it was really surreal because it went well, but it was surreal because after a year and a half almost of sitting around, being in lockdown, it was very uh, hard coming back up to speed. It's like that all of a sudden. But it went really well, and then I spent a week in Nashville recording with this new band, and they're just so good. Just even without me, they're really, really good. So I'm leveling up here music wise and just having a really good time doing it. And the other night was really something because the show really rocks. It's not nearly as, um, I guess you'd say, introspective and down and slow as the last couple shows I've been. And I think this one's more way up there and high energy.
Well, I'm very excited because I know you just have a new EP out, Sweet Eight. Did I get that right?
So week 8, yeah.
So you
it's
have
called that because it's called Sweet Eight because it's the 8th solo thing that I've done in my career. And it's pretty sweet. A whole bunch of new songs.
well, I know we didn't speak that long ago, and we had mentioned this EP, and you mentioned recording in Nashville. So I know that you have more songs you're working on. Are you, because this is an EP, are you working on a full-fledged album with the Amazing Dawgs?
I think I am, yeah. Yeah. I've gotten up for an album now, but I'm still, I think maybe one or two more, and I think we'll have it. Yeah, it's really a new dawn for me. I think it's coming.
Yeah. Well, it's something that's always very interested me. Um, you know, everybody knows your voice. You were so known for having such an amazing voice. When did you first realize I have this gift?
Um, well, for one thing, I never take it for granted. I don't know if it's a gift, it's just a solo for these things, but it was when I think probably up in Vancouver, BC, back in the mid '70s, when I first started in a bar band singing Led Zeppelin songs and Deep Purple songs and all the stuff that was on the radio back then. And we needed somebody who could sing high and loud. And that was me because I was the only woman in the band at that time. And so it fell to me to sing this, especially the Zeppelin and Deep Purple stuff. And that's when it just kind of came out. And it surprised me at first, but then I sort of thought, well, that's my true nature. So there you have it. I think I was probably about 22 at the time.
Now, I'm curious, what did Mom and Dad Wilson think about their daughter pursuing rock?
Well, my mother was none too fond of the idea. She just put a thumbs down on it from the get-go because she didn't know who I was hanging out with, and she didn't know what kind of parties were going on. All she had heard were stories of rock and roll people jumping off of rooftops on LSD and being hooked on drugs and doing all kinds of really ugly, sexual, sinful stuff. And so she wasn't for it, but our father was kind of like, he would say to her, you know, just be quiet for a minute. Let her do it and see what comes of it, you know. And he turned out to be our #1 fan. So,
Well, I think it's great when you have support like that. And one of the things that I find very refreshing about your career is that you seem to be very honest about who you are. And there seems to be like a very spiritual connection to what you do.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's like I say, singing for me definitely is a soul opening. It's not so much about the throat, but it's about just clearing everything else out of the way so it can come through. And that to me is really spiritual. Like being, like they say, like being the hollow reed that the divine wind blows through.
Well, I think it's perfect that you mentioned soul in there because that's what I hear, especially out of the new recordings on Sweet 8 in Tender Heart. You just blow me away on that song.
Thank you. Yeah, that song meant a lot to me, means a lot. And I tried to just take everything out that I possibly could. The most fair, raw production possible. And just some real heartfelt singing and backup singing.
Well, I love that we get to speak about production because this is probably about the third time we've had the opportunity to speak. One of those times was right when Immortal was released, and I was very impressed with the production on that album as well. And I had spoken to you about that, and I was so happy to hear how hands-on involved you were in the production. What made you decide that you wanted to be so much more involved in that?
Well, you know, I just didn't want anybody else between me and the song. I felt personally like I wrote with Dan Walker, my keyboard player on Sweet 8, and but he's in Seattle and I was in Florida, so I was pretty much, you know, all alone in the end zone with developing these things. And I just got the bit in my teeth and I just, you know, I'm just not going to listen to anybody else right now. And I'm glad I didn't because it was a really good exercise for me to stretch out that way. Once again, sort of leveling up as a musician.
Well, as all that is, you know, as you're taking more of the control in the recording, the live shows, like obviously you're the boss, you're in charge. Are you feeling a greater sense of joy out there on stage and in the studio these days?
Yeah, especially in the studio, live always comes from a place of joy. But in the studio, in the past, I've always felt kind of, I don't know, sort of not shy, but backed up somehow. I can never really let go like I can live. But this last time, that was gone. So maybe I've grown out of that now.
Wow.
And I like that. Yeah.
That really makes me want to hear the new stuff you've been recording. Like, well, I can let go like I do in the studio. Yeah. So and definitely makes me psyched for tonight. So once again, tonight it's Hard Rock Live right in Orlando. Now you mentioned recording this new stuff in Nashville with the Amazing Dawgs. This is stuff we haven't heard. Are any of these new songs going to make it into the set list?
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 3 of them. A song called Greed that I wrote with Tom Bukovac, my guitar player, and a song called Forget Her, the Jeff Buckley song that we recorded in Nashville together. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, one called Love of My Life that we also recorded. We actually went to Muscle Shoals and recorded a couple of them.
Well, how did the recordings go in Muscle Shoals? Because that's...
Oh, that was cool. I mean, it was just such a vibey place. It's nothing special. It's just a little hole in the wall, funky place. But they've kept it really pure and, of course, like state of the art So you can go in there and there's no industry around, nobody bothers you, there's no, producers or record company guys sitting in there going, oh, we don't hear a single, it was just very intimate, and I got these amazing players who, the Amazing Dawgs, Shanti Lane from Seattle, Tony Lucido on bass, and this guy Paul Moak on keyboards and guitar, and Tom, look at that. So it's a killer band we had there and here.
Now, in putting together this band, what was your first priority in the players?
First priority for the band or for the set?
For the band.
I wanted to, use the phrase level up again. I wanted to just get super crack players who were, and this time I went for guys who've done a lot of sessions in Nashville, especially because there's just a whole community there right now of people who play rock. I mean, we tend to think of Nashville as being country, and it is, but there's also a whole community of guys that play rock like Hollywood used to be about 20 years ago, and it's fresh. A guy like Tom Brukovac from Cleveland, who's now in Nashville, is the real thing. I was looking for guys who were not afraid to take risks and who were on the very top of the ceiling in terms of musical ability, and I found them. I mean, they're so tight together too.
Now, are they working with you a lot in the songwriting process of what you're putting together now?
I've been working with Tom on a couple of songs. Worked with Kenny Wayne Shepherd on a couple of songs in Nashville that will be in the bunch, not tonight, but in the future. They've been recorded. And he's the main one I've been writing with this time.
All right. Well, Ann, I have to tell you, very excited for the show. Happy to see a whole bunch of dates listed throughout the summer up and down the East Coast right now. And thank you for giving me the time, especially on a show night, to chat before you're going to end up hitting the stage.
Oh, my pleasure. I feel really good. It's just, I'm still trying to come back up to speed and hit that high energy place that I was at the end of 19 before lockdown. And every day I feel more and more energized. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, well, I just want to get off the road for a year and just be home and watch the ants crawl across the doorstop or something and swim in the pool. But then after about a month or two of it, you kind of go climb the wall. And now we're back, and cautiously, but all the way back.